Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So welcome to another episode of Christian Apologetics, and I'm going to continue with the series regarding the reliability of the New Testament accounts and the Gospels, and trying to show you guys through this series the fact that why we can consider the Gospels as reliable, eyewitnesses accounts regarding Jesus, and why we know we can consider them trustworthy and that they're telling us true facts about Jesus. So I've already done two videos, and in the first video I talk about the fact that the Gospels were written early enough, well within the first generation of eyewitnesses, so we can consider them to have no direct eyewitnesses accounts. No, of course, the Gospels weren't written by eyewitnesses, but they contain eyewitnesses accounts. And even if the Gospels were written right after Jesus died, they were written 10 to 15 years later, but they were written pretty early. And so why we can trust them to have been written that early? We have a lot of different evidence, why we can consider the Gospels to have been written that early. It's not just what the Gospels describe, but it's especially what they don't say, what they don't describe, that really talks. Because if the Gospels were written many years after the events of Jesus, or even centuries, as some skeptics say, then we should find certain informations into the Gospel that instead we do not find. And therefore, through going into a process of deductive reasoning and trying to explain the reasons why we do find some information, why we don't find some other, then we can go back in time pretty much, and we can try to understand that the Gospels were written well within the first century. I then did another video going into more detail about the objections regarding the early dating of the Gospels. And so I analyzed a bit more the objections in detail and why, like, refuting them, and why they do not apply in this case for the Gospels. And now this is going to be the third episode. In this third episode, as the title says, I'm going to talk about another very important part that comes when we are investigating, and analyzing the Gospels. That is the corroboration. You see, eyewitnesses accounts, if it's just the eyewitness, they're telling something, yes, you can apply a certain set of rules and method to try to see if it's trustworthy and if it's reliable. But many times what we have is internal or external corroboration. So that means that we have additional pieces of evidence that is well within what the eyewitness is describing, or it's outside of it, so it's external, that corroborates the claims. So that means that it adds additional support to what the eyewitness is saying. And for example, in just try to imagine a cold case, right? If we have an eyewitness that's describing a certain fact that happened, and he's describing, for example, a certain posture, or a certain tone of voice, or a certain aspect, feature of the character in question, then that's internal corroboration, because of the fact that it's not just that it's claiming that, but it's claiming something that they couldn't know unless they were directly seeing what was happening. And that's internal corroboration, because it's like a detail that you wouldn't know unless you were there, looking at the facts and the events. And we actually can do the same on the Gospels, and we can apply the same method of investigation, and we can find two main types of internal evidence. Now, again, I really want to make these videos not too long, quite easy to follow and to understand, so you guys can see why there are reasons to believe and to trust the Gospels. And so I'm gonna just do a little bit of I'm gonna go pretty quick, but I'm gonna try to give you some insights. All right. And now the first thing is the what's called the unintentional support of the eyewitnesses. This happens whenever different eyewitnesses are describing the same event. So when different people are describing the same event, what happens in most cases, or in all cases, is the fact that each eyewitness remembers something different. So they remember, yes, the same things, but some of them are going to remember maybe the color of the shirt. Some of them are going to remember the color of the pants. Others are going to remember the color of the shoes. Some of them maybe are going to remember the fact that the person had earrings, or the haircut, or maybe other features. So each witness, even if it's describing the same person or the same event, remembers slightly different things about the event. And as well, you can't remember everything. So maybe you remember certain things, but maybe you don't remember others. So when we apply this method to the Gospels, we find exactly this. So we find the true and reliable eyewitness accounts normally are different from one another. And that's exactly what we find. There are many, many different examples. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm going to just go through some. For example, the calling of the disciples. If you go to Matthew, right, so the Gospel of Matthew, we see Jesus calling the disciples, telling Peter, for example, I'm gonna transform you into a fisher of men. And then Peter, his brother, and then two other disciples decide to leave everything, leave their family, leave their jobs, leave everything, and follow Jesus. So this account is weird. It's odd, right? Because normally, like, you wouldn't follow someone that you don't know, especially if you have to leave your job, your family, your house, whatever you have, right? To follow this person that you don't even know. It's just saying to you, follow me. And so, that's weird. Normally that doesn't happen. And what instead, if we go to the Gospel of Luke, we have actually the answer to this odd question. So we have the answer to this odd question. And we read in the Gospel of Luke that actually Jesus, before calling the disciples, he was preaching to the people, and then he performed a miracle. He told them to go to a certain spot and to fish, and to throw the nets to grab the fish there, to catch the fish. And the disciple has just done that, but under Jesus telling them to do that, they decided to do it again. And in this time, they got so many fishes that the nets started to break down, and it was a miracle. And after this event is when Jesus actually calls them to follow them. And this is when they decide to leave everything aside and to follow him. So you can see here the unintentional support. Matthew just describes the calling, and therefore it's quite odd, right, for that to happen. But then if we read Luke, we understand how it happened. The fact that they had heard Jesus talking, preaching, and then they have seen, a miracle, and that's why they decided to follow him. So these two Gospels here, like Luke is actually supporting Matthew's account. So it's not like Matthew is wrong, but that Matthew is recalling or is saying something regarding that event, omitting certain details that instead Luke is writing. And so we have the full picture. This is just an example. There are many other examples. For example, the beating of Jesus, when Matthew says that they were telling to him, prophesy, who hit you, right? And that's quite odd, because if you can see who's hitting you, then you know who's hitting you, right? That's not a prophecy. Luke, once again, adds a detail that Matthew omits, that Jesus was blindfolded, and that's why it was a prophecy. We have as well here many other cases. For example, the feeding of the 5,000. We have here, I have some more. I'm gonna just, for example, the fact that the people were bringing the sick to see Jesus on the evening, and then we understand that it was Sabbath, so it was the holiday, so that's why they were waiting. And again, you see the different corroborations between the Gospels, or internal corroboration. And there is a very nice one here coming from Luke, because they were Pilatus, so Pontius Pilatus was trying to was asked from the Jews to condemn Jesus, and so he asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And in Luke account, we find that Jesus replied, "Yes, I am." But then in the verse right after, Pilatus is saying, "I find no charge against this man." So that's weird, right? Again, Jesus had just told him that he was a king. So, and the Jews were condemning Jesus exactly for that, because he was saying to be a king. And we go to the Gospel of John and we actually find the answer and the full picture. John is saying that when Jesus was talking to Pilatus, he actually told Pilatus that his kingdom was not of the world, of this world. So yes, he was a king, but of another kingdom. And that's why Pilatus couldn't find a charge against him. So again, we have many of these examples throughout the Gospels that just help us to understand this internal, unintentional eyewitness support. So some accounts are describing an event, omitting some details that are raising some questions. But if we read the other Gospels, we have the full picture and we have more details, and we understand why the accounts, were trustworthy. So it's like a puzzle, right? You take one account, you don't understand a piece until you get the other account and you put the piece together. So in that way, you get the seeing the full picture. And another internal corroboration of the Gospels is the fact that the Gospel writers were using names correctly. So the names most famous in that time were the same written in the Gospels. The corroboration of language as well. The Greek used for the Gospels was the same Greek in that first century period. Places, a lot of description of places that are quite small, like there were a lot of small villages that probably people that didn't live there wouldn't know. So again, we have all this internal corroboration that helps us to understand that the Gospels complement each other, and even if some descriptions are different, but they actually help each other and they are supporting each other. But not only that, because it's not the end of the day, because we have also external corroboration to the Gospels. So we have external evidence completely unlinked from the Gospel accounts that actually corroborate what we find in the Gospels. And we have archaeology. So we have, for example, the pool of Bethesda, they have the pool of Siloam, we have the fact that Pontius Pilatus was really a prefector there in that time, in that area, and other, again, I will not go through all of them, but there are other archaeological discoveries that have just support and that are, I don't know how to say it, but they are just like helping to us to understand that what's written in the Gospels are actually true events. They did happen. That's why archaeology, we find all these sites and we find that these people really existed, and it's not like a work of fiction. And then we have all the external, like non-Christian sources for Christ, for Jesus, or for the early Christians. For example, we have here, I have a website actually. I think I'm going to go through it. Yeah, this one right here. That is pretty much just summarizing the same things I'm saying. So we have the internal corroboration. This is the account of Jesus beating, right? That's using as example. But as I said before, there are many others. Then we have the external corroboration for the different people. For example, there was a Jewish historian called Josephus that in different of his books, he confirms or gives additional information regarding Jesus. And it's very important here to remember that these are non-Christian sources. So these people that were writing these things regarding Christians or Jesus weren't in favor of Christianity. They were, most of the times, they were against it. So these are hostile records regarding Jesus. They're not in favor of Christianity. So that's something you have to remember. So it's, for example, here Josephus, when he's describing the execution of the brother of Jesus, that was James, and the same way that we find in one of the letters of Paul. Then we have a description, an overall description of Jesus here, and this is one of the best parts, because from this information we can consider Jesus to be a wise man. His conduct was good. He was known to be virtuous. That he had many disciples. That he was condemned to be crucified. that and that his disciples reported to have seen him alive afterwards. So something about his resurrection as well. And we have as well some Jewish Talmud that in this case it was very, very hostile to Christianity. And we can see that again we have different details, different pieces of evidence. We have the fact that Jesus was sentenced to death on the eve of Passover, something that again we find in the Gospels, that was hanged. So again, this is something regarding crucifixion, that he practiced sorcery and enticed Israel to apostasy. So again, we have this fact that he was a teacher and that he practiced sorcery. So he had some miraculous or supernatural powers. And of course, here they're mocking him by saying sorcery, right? He was like a sorcerer, evil, right? But again, here it's just describes what we find in the gospel, right? The fact that Jesus performed many miracles, and that he was against the common, Jewish religion of that time. And then we have other examples from this Greek writer in this case, Lucian. And again, this guy berated Christians, so he was pretty hostile. And he says, for example, here the fact that Christians were worshiping Jesus as God. So again, it's a very, very interesting detail, right? The fact that Christians were worshiping a man rather than worshiping the usual, Greek gods. And that Jesus was crucified again. That they believe that they are immortal, and that they deny the gods of Greece, and they worship that man that was crucified. So again, we have different details, that by themselves don't really do much, but that they actually confirm what the Gospels say about Jesus. So then we have again Tacitus, another Roman historian. In this case, his description about Christians and about what happened, again, goes to confirm what the Gospels say about Jesus. The fact that Christians were called by Christus, that was this guy that suffered the extreme penalty. Again, he's talking here about the crucifixion during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of Pontius Pilatus. So again, here we have a direct name that also appears in the Gospels. That then after his death, there was a mischievous superstition that appeared, regarding, we can suppose, we don't know for sure what he was referring to in this case, but most likely the fact that he was alive, that then he had risen again from the dead, and that this superstition was then spread throughout the reaching even Rome. And then we have more things regarding just more details. In overall, here it says that there are 17 non-biblical sources corroborating the gospel record. So, like, again, just for time management, we're not going to go through all of them. But yeah, we have many different ancient historians that in one way or another, we have Plinius the Younger, we have a Syrian historian, I think it's called Bar Sempion, something like that. Then we have Thallus, we have Phlegon, like we have so many that just add, they tell certain details regarding Jesus or regarding the Christians that help us to understand that what we find in the Gospels, it's confirmed, it's corroborated. And then here at the end it says the archaeological account, for example, the method of crucifixion, the fact that the Pontius Pilatus was a real guy that existed, the pool of Bethesda, and there is also the pool of Siloe, and there are other things as well that have been corroborated. So yeah, just to conclude, this video, guys, we have at the end of the day, both internal and external corroboration that confirms the gospel accounts, so we can trust them. It's not just that the gospels are saying something and that's it. The gospel accounts are not all equal, because that would be very, very very weird and also very suspicious, right? Imagine if all the gospels would contain the exact same informations, the exact same things about Jesus, right? That looks more like a forgery, right? people that are just arranging everything to be exactly the same, then instead what we do find that instead the Gospels have different details, different things. They provide an intentional support to one another, and especially we have also external corroboration through archaeology and through non-Christian sources that confirm what the Gospels say. So that was the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and God bless you. See ya. Bye-bye.